Let's move on with a look at the stories that are grabbing the newspaper headlines here in France with Flo Villamino. Hi there, Flo.
Hi, Kat.
And we're going to start off with President François Hollande, who we often talk about in the press review, don't we? He's often getting a bit of president bashing from the papers. Not today.
Not today. He has had an incredible jump in his approval rating, unheard of, plus 21 points between December and January. Basically, he is currently at 40%.
So that's doubled.
Doubled, because he was at 19% in December. This is a record jump for any president, which makes him really the record president, because he was also at a record low in his opinion.
He just likes records.
He just likes
That's what it's all about.
records, exactly. A lot of papers are saying that this incredible jump is really due to his handling of the recent wave of attacks here in France. It's been really applauded across the political spectrum. Le Parisien aujourd'hui en France is saying this could be kind of an ephemeral comeback for the president, but Hollande really plans on using this as an opportunity, a trampoline for the second half of his presidential term. You can see here they're saying it's not over for Hollande. He wants to believe that he has a second chance.
Well, it's certainly better for the country, isn't it, if people feel more positive about their president? And that's something that Le Figaro is saying today. They want him to take an opportunity.
Absolutely. They also say this is an opportunity for a clean slate, a fresh start. That's what they're talking about on their front page today. He has shown that he can hold the reins in the recent days after the terrible tragedies here in Paris, but the economic and social situation remains very fragile in France. Le Figaro really hopes that he's going to show some boldness and take this as an opportunity to push forward further economic reforms, but they're asking this question here. Is he actually going to show some boldness? Is he going to have the guts to do it, essentially? Le Figaro really hopes he will, though. The planets are aligned. That's what they say in their editorial. And what are those planets? Well, oil prices have melted. The euro is at an all-time low, and interest rates are as well. So, according to Le Figaro, he has made signs that he wants to reform education and security, etc. They're really hoping he's going to extend this to the economy. The business paper Les Echos is also focusing on economic reform and saying that Hollande is planning to bounce back. They quote aides in their editorial, people close to Hollande essentially, who say that he has the energy of a rocket that is blasting off. The president feels exhilarated. He knows that the eyes of the world are on him, and he feels like French people are finally listening to him. So everything is really intermingled here.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, well, let's move on to events happening outside of France now. We're talking about a different aftermath of the attacks on the Charlie Hebdo magazine. We're talking about demonstrations against their latest front cover.
That's right, that front cover with a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad has upset a lot of people. There were demonstrations over the weekend in North Africa and West Africa and many parts of the Middle East. Yesterday, there was another protest in Chechnya. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets in Grozny, burning French flags, chanting "Je ne suis pas Charlie," so no support for Charlie there. According to this article in Le Monde, the president tacitly responded to this wave of protests yesterday. He said that France isn't insulting anybody when it defends its ideas. France isn't here to give lessons to other countries, but it won't accept any intolerance. And finally, he said, the French flag always represents freedom.
Okay, well, let's move on with a story that kind of affects everyone around the world, really, but we're going to get the French take on it. So this is a report from Oxfam, the anti-poverty charity. They've been talking about inequality around the world, and their timing's interesting, coming just before the Davos World Economic Forum.
That's right. It's quite an alarming report that's gotten, as you said, a lot of attention outside of France, but this is the French take on it. It's on the front page of La Croix, the Catholic paper. It talks about how inequalities really are growing, according to Oxfam. 80 of the world's richest individuals own as much as 3.5 billion people, and unless steps are taken to address this problem, well, the collective wealth of the world's richest 1% will exceed that of the 99% in 2016. So you can see here, La Croix is talking about skyrocketing inequality, dizzying figures. L'Humanité, the communist paper, is outraged by this today. In their editorial, they wonder why is nobody doing anything about this scandal? Why isn't anybody saying anything? And it points out that Pope Francis actually is one of the rare leading figures who's been raising his voice about these raising inequalities. L'Humanité calls this situation an insult to mankind.
Okay, we're going to stick with Pope Francis, I think, for our last story. Now, he's been known as a very progressive pope, hasn't he, since he came to the Vatican. But he's had some new comments that show a much more conservative side.
That's right. You can read about it in Le Figaro. But what he said yesterday was that Catholics don't have to breed like rabbits and should instead practice responsible parenting. He cited the case of a woman that he met recently who was pregnant with her 8th child after having 7 C-sections. He said that was irresponsible. Now, these comments come in the wake of another very controversial, conservative comment, I guess you could say, where he really defended the Catholic Church's ban on artificial contraception. So Le Figaro says this Pope, well, he's showing his more conservative side. We've been talking so much of his more progressive side, but it seems like he's going back to his more conservative roots.
Indeed, and I have to say, 8 babies after 7 C-sections, that does sound painful at the very least. Some wise words perhaps from the Pope. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks very much, Flo Villamino, who'll be back a bit later on with a check on the international newspapers for us as well.